Hello, everybody, and welcome to SpeedGeeks, a NASCAR podcast. I'm your host, Kaleb and Chris. Alongside me, as usual, my co-host, Chris Prince. Chris, how are you?
I'm good, sir. How are you doing?
Just dandy. Below me, we got Cam, and to my diagonal, we got BR. How are you two?
Fine.
All right.
Fine is a great answer. All right. So what do we got this week? We got the Atlanta. We're going to talk about that race as a whole. We'll talk about the caution light. We'll talk about Carson Hocevar versus the world. We'll give our driver of the week and our terrorist of the week as usual, and then we'll just dive right into COTA. Should be a nice, quick, easy show. That's what we'd like to hear. So yeah, let's just kick this thing off. Chris, gonna go right to you. What is your thoughts on Atlanta race weekend? That was right in your backyard. Did you do anything to celebrate?
Yeah, I watched the race, but that was it. Nothing else. I got kids, man, and I worked overtime before the race, so I was lucky I didn't fall asleep on the couch like the old man I am. But no, I enjoyed it. I thought the racing was good. I expected to see from Atlanta. There were some kind of bonehead moves made, maybe late by some drivers, that could be argued. But even then, I think the racing was still good. Plus, we finally got to see, the new DVP clock policy kind of come to fruition, which helps too.
BR, kicking it right to you. Your thoughts on Atlanta?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun race. I mean, you got to see more, some strategy and stuff more than we got last week, even though it's still a plate track and such. But, it was a fun race. Should have been a fun finish, but we'll get to that.
Cam, do you have any other thoughts on the race weekend from Atlanta and any of the series? Any big takeaways?
I mean, it's frankly just a great racetrack. Genuinely, is there another place we go to on the schedule that is that interesting from flag to flag? I don't know if there is really. I mean, of all the complaints we have, about Daytona and Talladega and how those tracks race, I feel if you're a NASCAR, you have to be chasing what you're getting at Atlanta at those two places, because you actually, people can make moves. You see people slingshotting all around all throughout the entire race, and on top of that, yeah, you can get a guy like Christopher Bell who led only one lap and win it, but at the same time, it was very clear who the fastest cars all day were. And so if you can somehow is able to mesh clear, like a actual a skill, a car difference that's clear, but also you can still work the draft and get to the front. I mean, I think I'm very excited to see what it is in the summer with when the asphalt is twice the temperature that it was there. I mean, like I said, I think if they want a template of like what to improve to make Daytona and Talladega better, look at that.
Yeah,
Nope,
I can agree with you.
I'm right there with you. That is what every other NASCAR says, that is what they want from a Daytona and a Talladega, just kind of on steroids because they're bigger tracks, obviously. But yeah, it was a nice breath of fresh air, and yeah, a lot of interesting stuff going on. So let's just start with where do I want to start? Chris, I'll let you pick. Do you want to start with caution light inconsistency, or do you want to start off with Carson Hocevar versus the world?
Let's talk about Carson Hocevar versus the world.
All right. What's your take on Carson Hocevar making friends with Kyle Busch and Ryan Blaney throughout the race?
I like it. It's not going to work out for him in the long run, I don't think. But as a fan, I like it. I like just him making moves, and I think he kind of touched on it. I like his attitude about it at the end of the race too. Kind of touched on it in another interview. He's like, "We're not a boy band. We're here to win races." I enjoyed the moves he was making. It was entertaining too, to watch, just to see him shooting all over the track. He didn't have no regard for anybody other than himself. So.
Do you have any concerns that maybe if things like this keep up, he'll be kind of neutered and a lot of those aggressive moves will go away due to external forces? I don't want to dive into the conspiracy of it, but
yeah, I mean, you could make that argument or worry, because Ross Chastain got chastised by Mr. H, and you see it's kind of been a less aggressive version or a less known version. Like, yeah, he's got the wins, but you don't see him leading the laps and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean that's something you have to worry about as a fan because you don't want to see the personality taken out of it.
BR, kicking it to you. What do you make of Carson Hocevar and his antics at Atlanta? And do you have any concerns for going forward for him or for
him? Yes, very much so. Yeah,
you want to elaborate?
Seems there's a, I mean, making Kyle Busch bad, about everyone on the track's done it, but Ryan Blaney is generally kind of just a chilled out. He just goes there, does his job, goes home. For him to be playing like that, it shows the frustration I think that he had. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I to an extent, yeah, I do hope he doesn't, get neutered like Chris said. It's more entertaining when you have kind of like, got a almost like when you got a villain and stuff in the series. I think it'd be good if Hocevar turned into one. It'd make it more interesting, at least from a fan perspective. But yeah, he if he keeps it up, yeah, he might have some people hunting him down, but not my problem. So I'm all for it.
Cam, do you have any opinions on Carson Hocevar?
I mean, these guys come along all the time. I mean, we're being a fan of the sport. There's one or two of these guys in the sport every time, and with the exception of every once in a while you get a Logano or like someone like that who never does. But generally speaking, they figure out that that's not the way to do it 2-3 years down the line, and they fix it. But I will say, I mean, the one that everybody's talking about is when he spun Blaney out. And as a noted Blaney fan, I really didn't think it was that egregious, to be honest. I mean, did he hit him in the wrong place? Yeah, but he got a run that was just so gigantic that he just missquared him. I mean, it's a mistake more than him. I think him being stupid, but I mean, yeah, he's going to be overly aggressive, and guys are going to do that. But I also think it's funny how fans pick and choose when they're okay with that. Because when Chastain was doing it to a driver they didn't like, everybody loved him. But when Hocevar does it to people that people generally like, then it's fine. So I think it's always funny how super aggressive driving like that is selectively chosen as when it's criticized. But he'll get himself straightened out. He might get wrecked sometime at some point this year, and he'll move on from that and he'll figure it out. I mean, he's too talented. Now I think the field's gonna have a problem if Spire makes that car weekly competitive before he figures that out. Because if that car's running up front and he still hasn't tamed that up, then you end up in a Chastain situation. But we'll see what happens with that. But no, I mean, it's not abnormal in the series. I have a young guy, super aggressive, and it's just going for it. So I mean, it'll all police itself out. It always does.
Does a driver, though, let me ask you this, Cam, do you think a driver, Denny Hamlin and them kind of touched on it, do you think a driver like Denny, for instance, goes to him, or does it take a run-in with someone like Denny? I know he looks like at Ross as a mentor, that's been kind of shot all over social media since their talk, but is it going to take a run-in with a driver like Denny or like a Kyle Busch where they call him up during the week and they're like, you don't do this before it polices itself out? Or like you said, the Spire put him in a car and he's winning, and then it sticks around and he becomes another Logano, where Logano is known for making the moves for himself. He doesn't really care so much.
I mean, I think he's going to find himself in a situation at some point where a guy who just gets tired of it, and I think it'll probably end up being a running on the track. Now, is it going to be egregious? Like, is it going to be somebody just dumping him for a win? Probably not. But he's going to find out that he doesn't get as much space as other guys do. He's going to find out that these guys don't give him the leeway that other guys do. He's going to find out that guys may not want to go with him in a super speedway or whatever it may be. That's how I think it'll work out for him. I mean, I doubt you're going to see something at some point this year where someone just dumps him. But you're going to see, like, he's going to realize I have to fix this, otherwise guys are not going to respect me. And if you don't get any respect, you thing about this sport is, unless you're just an unbelievable talent like a Logano or something like that, you can't succeed in the series with no friends.
I got you.
All right, let's move on to the caution light inconsistencies. Now, I didn't get to see the end of the Xfinity race, but I did hear that the two races between Saturday and Sunday did have kind of a similar event at the end where there's a wreck and they call the yellow. Or one called the yellow, one didn't in the Xfinity race. They did not. They let it run to the finish, and some drivers had to drive through a pretty messy wreck. And then on Sunday, they called it and took away what probably would have been a 3-wide finish between Bell, Hocevar, and Larson. There's been a lot of mixed opinions throughout the internet, as there always is. Some saying, hey, you robbed us of a 3-wide finish, let that bitch run green. And then others, including like all drivers, as Denny said, saying, call the yellow and keep your drivers safe first and foremost. So I guess I'll pitch that question to you, BR. I let them kind of have that follow-up question, so I'll give you this question first. Where did you lie on that? Do you have an issue with kind of the adjustments that they make day to day, saying we're going to call it this way on Saturday? Oh, that didn't work. We're going to call it differently on Sunday. You know, all those kind of things.
Well, I guess my thought is it's like, if humans are gonna make mistakes, so there's ground to be some inconsistency at time. But when the inconsistency becomes consistent, it becomes an issue. That's how I look at it. It's not that there's inconsistency at times. It's that the inconsistency is the consistency. It feels at times, with like, how like, it feels like every other week we're discussing of they're doing something inconsistent, whether it's in the past, I guess more so with like the DVP, but now with the yellows, it feels like we're just constantly talking about inconsistency. And I think that's probably where the annoying part comes in. Inconsistency to an extent is unavoidable because, circumstances change, and even if the people making the decisions stay the same, the mindset might not. So it's bound to happen at some point. But I feel the main issue is like, the inconsistency feels consistent at times. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's how it feels to me.
In this specific instance, between letting it run green on Saturday and then calling it yellow on Sunday, do you think calling the yellow was the right call, or do you think they should have let that finish?
I mean, admittedly, in the moment, I wanted it to let it ride out, but the more I've had to think about it, yeah, they made the right call going with the yellow.
Chris, kicking it to you. Your thoughts on NASCAR's inconsistencies, your thoughts on running it green versus throwing the yellow. Your take.
Yeah, I mean, BR kind of said it too, kind of my thoughts on it in a way. I mean, but Eric Estep kind of said it too on X. I couldn't have really said it better myself. That NASCAR's had this controversy way too often, but Eric said, let's see here, NASCAR opened themselves up for this controversy, basically because my computer wouldn't hate me, but swallowed the whistle at the end of the 500 and then the Xfinity race. If they're just consistent with the call, then we're not talking about it, I feel like. So, I mean, like, it's like BR said, you have to be consistent with it.
Sad. You should just not.
All right. After we did some reshuffling, we put BR at the top next to me. Chris is at the bottom after losing his connection. What were you saying about somebody on Twitter talking about something?
Yeah, Eric Estep basically was like, NASCAR opened themselves up to this, was swallowing the ball at the end of the 500. And then in the Xfinity race, the inconsistency, basically, like BR said, is the problem. If they're just consistent, and Denny Hamlin kind of touched on it, everything in the past doesn't matter. If they're consistent from going forward, that's what we should focus on, kind of the way he said it. But again, I don't know that that's going to happen because NASCAR is NASCAR.
And then in this specific instance, for running it green versus calling the yellow, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, yeah, I want to see him race back to the line. That finish had some potential. The move Hocevar made to take him 3 wide, even though it was kind of like just running into the back of Bell, it still was, ballsy to see him. But I also know they have to protect the athletes at that point, because with no drivers, you don't have a sport.
Cam, kicking it to you. What is your thoughts on the whole thing?
I mean, they kind of said it. I mean, but the thing is, what always frustrates me with NASCAR is like they somehow find ways to get away from things that we've just always like understood as common sense. Like I've been watching the sport for 15, 17, whatever it is years. If you're at the end of a plate race and they start spinning around and wrecking, they throw a yellow. That's been the case. I mean, Daytona and Talladega races I've seen ended in yellow in my life. Like that's just how it's always been. And yeah, BR said it really well. It's like you can't like inconsistency is going to happen because it is a judgment call at the end of the day. But what happened in that Atlanta race was the tamest of the, like, if we're talking about that race, the lower series race the day before, and the Daytona 500, the ones that everyone's talking about, that was easily the tamest wreck of the three. But they threw a yellow there, didn't the other times. Like, it's just, I don't know. But in general, though, yeah, NASCAR has to lead on the side of caution with that, no pun intended, because like they have to because of the safety aspect, and you don't know what's going on back there. But it's just they started this problem by letting 500 run back to green or run back to the checkered when they shouldn't have. And if they would have just called that like they call every other super speedway race in the history of the world, we wouldn't be in this issue.
Out of curiosity, who was the lead car when that wreck happened? Like if they had called the yellow, who would have won the Daytona 500?
I don't know.
Hamlin, I believe.
No, because Hamlin was already turned.
Oh
Yeah, that's tough. That's a good one.
It might have, because Byron came off the top lane, basically came out of just wherever. Because remember, everybody, all of us all in unison was like, "Oh my God, is that the 0-1? Oh, thank God it's not." And that was it might have still been him, because Reddick ended up trailing him, but he was behind him the whole time. It still might have been William Byron. I don't know though. I can't act like I would know, but I might have still been a 24.
Thought I'd ask.
Because that could have really been anybody. That could have been a Penske car too, even at that point.
Yeah, because like I think BR might, or whoever said that, the Hamlin thing, might have been right that he was technically the front car, but he wouldn't count because he was in the wreck.
Right.
So.
All right, before we leave Atlanta and we get into our drivers of the week and terrorists of the week, do we have any parting thoughts for Atlanta before we leave it until August, I believe? August, July?
Yeah, I think Cam kind of said it. It's gonna be a good race to watch for sure in the fall with the heat up on the track, stuff like that. So that's something to keep in mind. But yeah, I enjoyed the race overall. I think I'm kind of I don't know if I'm ready for a road course, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting right into more math.
I think the biggest intrigue for me, like, not only is racing is probably very hot, it's just going to make, because everybody saw that the 3 Penske cars could make moves no one else could. Yeah, Sunday, everyone saw that. With the surface being hot, it's just going to create a larger separation, most likely on these cars, like, tire wear handling, all of that. So if they come back and are as fast as they are, I mean, it's hard to see how they could get faster, but like, it's going to create I feel like an even bigger thing where these guys can just move in a way these other guys, and the runs you're going to see from the fast cars, whether it be Penske or Hendrick or wherever, the runs you're going to see are, I don't think we've seen in the sport in a while, especially since they, neutered the horsepower seemingly systematically.
BR, anything to add?
Not really.
Very good. All right, our drivers of the week. I'll kick it off. I'm going with Michael McDowell, going from 6 laps down to P13. The embodiment of really never give up, and he ended up being the lucky dog, no pun intended. Literally 6 times to get back on the lead lap, and ends up pulling out a pretty good finish. Really impressive. Really cool to see that. So I'm going with the 71 of McDowell. He was also on my up this week on my 3 up, 3 down. Make sure you check that out on bellyupsports.com. Chris, going to you. Who is your driver of the week?
Yeah, you took mine too. I was actually going to go with Michael McDowell. 6 laps down at one point. I think I kind of said it earlier. The new DVP or go to the garage if you got a problem policy, whatever you want to call it. We got to see that really like be a good thing this week because you don't have stories like that if you go to the garage and your day is over. So it was pretty cool to see, especially Michael McDowell of all people, because everybody's like, he's just a bottom feeder. For him to really just go and kick his way back from 6 laps down to a top 15 finish roughly. So
BR, going to you. Who's your driver of the week?
Josh Berry. I mean,
Good pick.
He in the 21 car, and yeah, they have an alliance with Penske, but still in a Wood Brothers car, won the first, qualified at the front, won the first stage. I don't know where he ended up because I think he got into a wreck.
It was like P26 or something. I wrote it.
Yeah,
He was
but
on my up this week.
He led like 50 plus laps if I recall correctly or something. So, in a Wood Brothers car in the gigantic 2025, that's a big accomplishment. So Josh Berry for me.
Yep, led 56 laps. Started out third because Penske just absolutely dominated qualifying. He finished 25th after being involved in an accident. But Cam, going to you. Who's your driver of the week?
I was going to say Josh Berry, but I'll give a different one since he said it. Because just a rhetorical question: how bad is Harrison Burton? Okay, now to give someone else, I know I'm a noted fan, but like Ryan Blaney qualified on the pole, got spun out with 20 something to go, came from the tail end of the longest line for pitting when the pit row was closed, and was fifth in like 10 laps, 11. And the only reason probably he didn't win that race at the end is because there was no Fords left to push him. So, talk about resilience. Yeah, he had new tires and he had probably the fastest car on the racetrack. But, he still went from the tail end to top 5 in about 10 laps.
No, for sure. Definitely on my short list. Want to also throw out an honorable mention to Kyle Larson for simply finishing the race. He was 0-6 before this weekend. Finally got it after 7 attempts. So good for him. He was in the fight. He was in the battle to win his first plate racing track. So hopefully that inspires some confidence.
I might have some praise if he didn't just pinch the 2 in the wall because he doesn't know how to run these races. But
that was crazy. My terrorist of the week actually has something to do with that. But I'll let others go first. Cam, let's go to you. I'll kick it off with you. Your terrorist of the week.
I alluded to it, Kyle Larson. The guy had it's a mental block. Like Jeff Gordon said it at the end of the Daytona 500. They asked him why is Kyle Larson so off the pace in terms of finishing compared to your other 3 cars at these things? He said it's all a mental issue, and because it is, he for some reason just can't. He thinks everything he does at these racetracks is like the wrong move, and hesitation will be your downfall at a super speedway every single time. He doesn't know where he's going, and the guy, I don't understand why he is so addicted to running people into the wall, but he's done it his whole career. Not to take away from the all-world talent he is, but that it's just I don't understand that because he even said afterward he was like, "Yeah, it must be my fault because I did it." And I'm like, okay, get out of your own head. You have an extremely fast car, and it's not everybody else's problem that for some reason you don't understand how to race these racetracks.
BR, kicking it to you. Who's your terrorist of the week?
Well, to stick somewhat with Kyle Larson, on that when he put Cindric in the wall, didn't his spotter say he was clear? So yeah,
I think I've heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So for that reason, I'm gonna go with. I can't think of the name of his spotter off the top of my head. Him. He is. I will put him as my terrorist of the week.
All right, Chris, are you sticking with the 5 team, or are you going a little bit out of the box here?
I'm actually going to go a little off the box here. That move by Larson was horrible, but the 99s move, come on, Suarez. You're better than that, especially his prior stats too at Atlanta. That move was just horrible on his part. That's off if you just want to go off one incident, but I think if we're going to base it off the whole race, the 77 really had an impact on all the drivers, it seemed like, because Carson Hocevar got talked about more than anybody during the race. It felt like being a bother. But I'm going to go with Suarez just based off that incident. That move was atrocious too, kind of like Larson's.
Yeah, I wrote about it. It's pretty premature to say something like this, but with Suarez being not so great literally anywhere else, this could be like the end of his playoff berth and his playoff hopes. Still got a long season to go, but
Connor Zilic could be is probably the end of Daniel Suarez's long-term NASCAR.
I think I think Suarez has until the fall. I mean, because if your track house he can't be worse than Suarez over a season long. So
no, yeah,
and you'd have 2 cars with Red Bull sponsorship. Yeah, I mean, how do they look at that and go, "No, we'll keep them"?
Yeah, we'll keep it for the internet sponsor or the broadband sponsorship and Coke.
No one, well, yeah, Coke, I guess, but yeah, the internet sponsor. No one knows what that is.
Suarez to the 48 rumors when. I could absolutely stick with Larson and make it a 2.5 out of 3 vote here, but I'll go with Byron because just the way that looked as he was coming off the turn and just absolutely slammed Cindric after he bounced off the wall. It was unbelievable. Not to say that was all his fault. I think he rode it a little closer than he probably could have. But at the same time, Cindric's bouncing off the wall. He's coming back after the incident with Larson. So ultimately, still goes on Larson, but Byron just slamming into him just was something to see. But yeah, those are your driver of the week and your terrorist of the week. No unanimous terrorist of the week this week. So good on that, boys. We didn't absolutely dunk somebody in the water like we did with Custer.
And then turned out it wasn't even his fault.
I mean, it was the 41's fault. I mean, we can.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean the individual person. That was more.
We dogged Custer a little too much.
Okay, I'll say one thing about that is very quickly. Yeah, he called him clear, but in what world do you think you're clear?
You got mirrors in that car.
Yeah, like you're surrounded by automobiles.
Yeah.
How in the world do you think? Like, I understand they're just going to react to the words. Like, I get that. Like, don't get me wrong, but there's not even like a split second where he's like,
obviously not Kyle Larson. Kyle
Larson
doesn't react to it.
It's like me. It's like me being in traffic and just going, I can just pull out, right?
This will work. Yeah.
All right. So now we're heading over to COTA in Austin. Obviously, they have the new layout. I forget what the big change is. I know it's like shorter. Like, did they take away a big straightaway?
And if you can pull it up quickly, go to the Wikipedia page for COTA, and it'll show the NASCAR layout right there, and zoom in on turn 6A.
It's crazy.
6A?
Yeah. It's like a complex. There's 6A and 6B.
I see.
Here we go. Share screen. We want that. Boom. Right here?
Yep. I don't know if there's 15 drivers in the circuit that could hit that apex.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
We are a stock car circuit. Like
we think up the hill turn 1 is bad. I mean, we go all the way over here. Oh boy. That's not good.
That'll be a hot point when the white flag flies if they're close enough for it to be.
If there's which seems to always be, if there's overtime at this track on Sunday, someone is being sent to San Antonio. Right.
I want to be 4th on the last restart. Whatever that restart is, I want to be 4th because the first 3 are going to knock the crap.
And also, some really back marker is going to fly into the barriers in 16, 17, and 18.
Oh boy.
We're really going to hear from the Europeans about how NASCAR are just dumb, talentless hicks this week. We're really going to hear from the Europeans.
See, I like this. What was wrong with
supposed to be the stock car friendly layout too.
Because it is if you know how to drive, but the problem is we don't have that many. Because like that, the reason why I took it away is that is a slower layout and it has a lot more hard braking zones. They went to the second one because it's faster and it's more suited to the cars. But the problem is you still have to know how to drive, and Ty Dillon is going to wreck in this race.
He's sending somebody absolutely into the rocks.
Or Noah Gragson.
He himself is going. Ty Dillon ain't sending anybody. He's going on his own somewhere.
Oh, brother. All right. So expectations is somebody is going to be wrecked horribly.
Horribly.
Does Carson Hocevar finally meet his maker on this one?
Oh, he's a very like sleeper, decent at these road courses. So
Oh, really?
so I mean, I'm not saying he's gonna like run up front or anything, but I'm just saying he's not gonna like. I don't think he's gonna just completely like hit a fail moment.
This is where last year I think Kyle Busch faced off with Christopher Bell in pit road because he got spun or whatever. So
I mean, we are because of the layout. And because this used to be the supercars layout, we are running a risk this week of this being of Shane Van Gisbergen just stinking to show up. Like we are running a risk.
absolutely.
It never seems to work out that way when this far away you see it. It never seems to work that way, but it could happen.
I think it's a typical road course race. I mean, I think it might be a little more enticing just because the circuit's better. But I think you'll see probably the top qualifiers up front, and then you're going to see the ringers start making their way up as they adjust on their cars.
Does AJ Allmendinger blow up before lap 12?
That's shit's hilarious. Like your colleagues like, how do you not like put all of your reliability, coins into these road courses? It's the only place you'll ever win. So and they seem to always blow up on these. It's never on like intermediate usually.
No, right. I think the first year I was watching in 23, it was either COTA or Sonoma. AJ Allmendinger lost his communication during the race, and he's looking at pit road, when to pit, next time by, or whatever. Like he couldn't hear anybody in his headset. He was doing it all by himself.
I remember what year it was. There's a Road America race where he looked faster than everybody in the field, and the dude break is it fuel pump, I think, just blew.
Yeah, just something off the wall.
Yeah,
just broke.
yeah, and it's just like okay.
The classic AJ Allmendinger experience. BR, do you have any thoughts on COTA?
No, they said anything I really had on it.
Very good. All right. So I guess we can just dive right into our picks here if nobody has anything else to add. Make it a really quick show tonight. We love to see it.
The only thing I'll say is I do think that just because of the way the layout is, it should bring some guys into the fold maybe that shouldn't, because it is going to be a little less technical. But in general, it's still way too technical for half the field. So
Austin Cindric, top 5 or no? What are the what's the
I mean, the way he's running right now, I understand they're super speedways, but it's still momentum's a thing. Like I assume he's going to run well.
Isn't he already pretty decent on road courses?
Yeah, he's a pretty good road course racer, but he's a lot like AJ in my opinion. Like he has some off the wall thing happen where he gets like maybe it's just a penalty on pit road. He gets mired in the back.
Wasn't it Sonoma last year where he got launched into the dirt?
Yeah, like he just gets in the horrible situations and can't recover from them.
His issue is what happens with a lot of guys, and Tyler Reddick, I think, is the biggest culprit of this, where you have these guys who have a really good road course acumen when they're running in the front. You put them toward the back because whatever may happen, pick the issue, and they don't know how to knife through the field, and that's what usually separates your Allmendingers and your Van Gisbergens and your Elliott's back in the day, Larson's, whatever, from Reddick and Cindric and those guys, is because they can't move from the back of the field, and that's Cindric's problem because Penske doesn't usually bring very good qualifying cars to these places, and he a lot of times has a problem getting to the front. Now he may get to like 8th by the end, but that took him the whole race to do it.
All right, BR, starting with you, who is your pick this week at COTA?
I mean, I gotta pick SVG. I fear. Just supercars track. If Trackhouse, if they don't, if they qualify well, no stupid mistakes, no pit road penalties, no speeding penalties from him. Maybe he doesn't win, but I have a hard time picking anyone other than him.
Nope, that's totally fair. Cam, are you sticking with SVG as well?
If I had to put my actual money on it, yes. But
right,
I'm gonna make a different kind of pick, and I'm sorry if I'm stepping on your toes, but the best average finish in this circuit since they started running it is Alex Bowman, and after that Chicago race last year, it just looks like he's kind of figured something out. Now, granted, was he like the Dominic car or anything? No, but like I think he could put up a really good showing. And then also the last time we were here, William Byron dominated it. But I think if Bowman qualifies well, especially if he gets to the end of this race, could find himself kind of just in the right position at the right time. Because like I said, this has all the makings of a Van Gisbergen just stinker, but like it never works like that. When you're in this circuit, when you're this far out and you're like, this guy's gonna win, like he's got to. They never do. So I'm gonna put in a little bit on the 48 this week.
I was right there with you. It was predetermined in my head. I had the stat pulled up ready to go, but you went and took it away from me, Chris.
I had the 48 actually if he didn't get picked, but I figured you'd probably pick him. So I put I'm gonna roll with Ross Chastain. He's got one win in the last 3 there, average finish of 4th. Plus he didn't have a bad day at Atlanta. I think Ross may be warming up a little bit if he could get, into the top 5. Like I said, that's a bumper car that isn't afraid to send somebody. So I think you got to watch for Ross this week.
All right, so run down the picks again. BR is going with the favorite SVG. Me and Cam going with Bowman, and Chris going with Chastain. Now, let's do our weekly game of DraftKings. Show up and see who's on the groupings and the head-to-heads and the whatnot.
While you pulled it up, I do want to shout one thing out. Is it likely? No, but I just want everyone to imagine how close Justin Marks would be to the big red button if Connor Zilic won on Sunday.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
That guy, he could. He is as talented, other than like an SVG. He is as talented as anybody in that field at running on these road courses. If those cars are fast, he could do it. Like it's not out of the question.
I had a guy told me that Zilic was like second highest, like the second favorite in terms of odds on some. It was Keelan who told me that.
Zilic is second to SVG. SVG's plus 500. Zilic is plus 550.
That's crazy. I'm not upset with it, but that's crazy.
That is crazy. I'm not upset with it again, like Cam said. I can see it because Zilic is good.
His first Cup start, he's second in odds. That's kind of crazy.
Isn't he like stupid young too? Like 20 years?
He's like 18.
Okay, that.
I'm trying to see if FanDuel has any more.
He's the closest. He's the closest like we've had in like stock cars to like a Verstappen level talent coming up to the circuit because he won his first Xfinity start at Watkins Glen and was the fastest car all day.
Dominant.
I watched several penalties too.
Yeah, I know. He did everything. He / the team did everything they could to spoil it, and he still didn't.
All right, fellas, we got the matchups. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matchups. First things first, Kyle Larson versus Christopher Bell.
I'll take Bell on that one, just because he's riding the momentum of the win. But I like Larson. That one could go either way. I'm just going to ride the momentum with Bell.
That's really hard. I think this style of track, like the way they changed it, might suit Larson a little more, but that's hard.
BR, Larson or Bell?
I guess I'll say Larson, but yeah, that's. I gotta assume they're pretty close in odds.
I think the biggest thing they'll break that is is Toyota gonna show up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they sometimes just don't even show up at these road courses. So
sometimes Denny explodes lap 1.
Yeah.
Ross Chastain versus grandson Ty Gibbs.
I'm taking Chastain. I'll ride with Chastain again.
Yeah, I don't trust Ty Gibbs to do like anything. So
yeah,
kind of underwhelming so far. SVG versus Connor Zilic.
I had a feeling it was going to end with Zilic on the end. On experience, you got to go with SVG, but like,
yeah,
I picked the Bowman thing mostly as kind of a shit post for Caleb, but like, I was really close to picking Zilic in my head just next week to go. Yeah, I picked the guy to win in his first ever start, but like,
honestly,
like
I would have if I didn't get first and someone picked SVG before me, I was gonna pick Zilich.
He's a solid pick. You know he can win on the road course races. He's
How
proved
close?
the skills there.
Like, he wins this race, right? Let's say he does. How close is Justin Marks going to get to going, how much do I have to pay to get you out of that contract, Suarez? Like how much do I have to pay? It's only it's only a 1-year deal. What can I just pay you it and you're gone?
Buy you out. Yeah, let's just go
Yeah,
ahead.
Don't pick up that phone, Daniel.
Well, his problem. Well, the problem also is they'd have to work out how to get him out of the JR Motorsports thing too. But like, still,
No, JR Motorsports and Trackhouse, they're all good. They're like this.
Well, they have to put someone in the 88 is the thing.
Suarez can go in the 88. He might win some.
Suarez in the 88. Yeah, there you go.
Tyler Reddick versus William Byron.
Byron. That's my
Byron.
Byron.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Byron.
I'm a 2311 representative. I'll say Reddick.
I'll go with Reddick with you, BR.
I think it's Reddick. I think Reddick. He has such a hard time when he gets. I've seen it so many times. He qualifies really well, gets put to the back, some strategy, and gets stuck there. Didn't mean to interrupt you, by the way. Sorry.
No, it's all good. I was just going to the next one. Chase Elliott versus AJ Allmendinger.
I'm gonna go Chase just because he's my driver, but that obviously
Hendrick cars are a little more reliable than those
Can I see the
Yeah,
future?
that's
Can you tell me if the car stays completely in whole by the end of the race? And I'll tell you then.
I mean, it'll stay whole, but AJ Allmendinger will lose all hearing. So
Yeah.
I'll take Elliott as well.
This layout is
So good for an Allmendinger, so I'll go with that. But like, if his brake lines go out in like
lap 7, then don't blame me.
We got, last but not least, Alex Bowman versus Kyle Busch.
I'm gonna take Bowman.
I mean, I gotta go Bowman after I picked him, but RCR, it's weird. RCR has been like weirdly good at these recently.
I mean, obviously I'm going to pick Bowman. I picked him to win the race outright, but it's weird.
That 8 and that 3 might mess around and both end up with top
10s, and we both go.
Not to preview anything, but you can get Alex Bowman race winner for plus 2,000
That's pretty good.
for top
I'm still-
3.
I'm still blown away that the betting markets were keen enough to put Connor Zilich as a second favorite.
He doesn't tell me what he is top
reeling
3.
from that.
But... Oh well, maybe I'll wait another day or two and it'll be there. All right. That is your DraftKings matchups, the official sports book of me and Chris's weekly picks. Those will probably be out Thursday.
Yeah.
All right, folks. That was a nice and quick show. Nice, quick 45 minutes. We love to see it. Chris, what do you got coming this week? Where can people find you? All that fun stuff.
Yeah, gonna have the power rankings. I'm hoping Wednesday, but probably Thursday realistically, because recording this and then later recording the show with the wife, the B&B show, season 2, episode 2. Gonna touch on some of that. So you can find me on Twitter for NASCAR at NASCAR for everyone, and then the B&B show as well with mine and my wife's podcast. And then we'll have our picks like you said too, but nothing other than that.
Kim, BR, any parting words for the fine people at home?
Not too much.
Good.
No.
Good. Fuck the people at home. Absolutely. All right,
Like,
folks.
subscribe. You could have thrown that out, guys. I mean, come on. Jeez.
No, they leave that to me. Make sure you subscribe and like the video. Make sure you turn on that notification bell. Make sure you so you can see when we're coming up every week. Make sure you go like the Facebook page. That has all of me and Chris's stuff on it. If I ever get ambitious, I'll throw some graphic stuff like, oh, here's our picks this week and whatever. But I don't have the effort to do all that. Okay, it's just there. Use it, comment on it, tell us we're idiots, whatever you want to do.
Interact with us, please.
What's that?
Yeah.
Interact with us, please.
Yeah, no, seriously. I promise we'll interact back. Yeah, so we'll see you all next week after COTA. I'm sure we'll be talking about that 6A. You've been listening to SpeedGeeks. Thanks for listening. We will see you all next week.